It's 2 in the morning. You should be asleep. You were tired hours ago. But here you are, turning a conversation from last Tuesday over in your hands. What you said, what they said, what the silence between those things might mean. Running scenarios. What if you'd answered differently? What if they meant something you didn't catch? What does it mean that they haven't texted? And the worst part, you know this changes nothing. You've told yourself to stop at least a dozen times tonight, but the thoughts don't take requests. You've probably been told your whole life that you think too much, that you need to learn to turn your brain off, and maybe you've tried. Long walks, reading before bed, anything that promised to make the quiet feel less loud. Sometimes it helped for a while, but the thoughts always came back. Here's what nobody tells you. Your overthinking isn't a flaw. It isn't proof that you're anxious by nature or neurotic or somehow wired differently from the people who seem to move through life without all this noise in their heads. It's a door, and behind it, not in the thinking itself, but in what the thinking is covering, is the thing that actually needs your attention. Carl Jung spent much of his career asking why people run from their own inner world. What he found wasn't weakness. What he found was a specific kind of intelligence, one that learns early and efficiently that feeling certain things is unsafe, so it finds a workaround. Your mind isn't broken, it's protecting you. The question is, from what? To understand what's really happening when you can't stop thinking, you need to understand something about how the mind is built. Jung, writing about psychological types, identified thinking and feeling as two distinct ways of processing experience. Not intellect versus emotion. That framing is too blunt. What Jung meant was this: thinking is what classifies, analyzes, and tries to make sense of things. Feeling is what assigns them weight. What says, this matters, this hurts, this is the thing I can't let go of. In a psyche that's working well, both run at the same time. You think and you feel. They inform each other. But here's what happens for a lot of us, usually early. We learn nobody teaches this directly. It just settles in that certain feelings are too much for the people around us. Grief too heavy, anger too threatening, longing too exposed, sadness dismissed, fear mocked. So the child finds a way. Instead of feeling the thing, the child thinks about the thing. Instead of sitting with the ache, the child analyzes the ache. Instead of grieving, the child explains. Instead of being angry, the child reasons. And it works. It works well enough. The pain stays at a manageable distance. The child moves through the world functioning, smart, even capable of discussing feelings without drowning in them. The problem comes later. Jung argued that the unconscious is not a storage room. It's an active system, and it pushes back. When you suppress feelings long enough, they don't disappear. They build pressure, and that pressure needs somewhere to go. One of the places it goes is into thought. The mind generates a proxy, not the feeling itself, which feels too dangerous, but a related thought, a related scenario, something that circles close to the wound without landing in it. You think about the relationship instead of feeling the loneliness inside it. You replay the work situation instead of sitting with the inadequacy underneath it. You turn the conversation over and over instead of letting yourself feel the sting of it. This is what psychologists call intellectualization, using mental activity as a buffer between yourself and your own emotional life. It worked when it started, but when it becomes how you handle everything, something strange happens. You feel simultaneously overstimulated by all the thinking and oddly empty. Because the thinking isn't nourishing you, it's burning fuel without going anywhere. Alan Watts, approaching the same question from a very different angle, said something in the wisdom of insecurity that is almost uncomfortable in how directly it lands. The mind's attempt to think its way to safety, to analyze, predict, secure itself against uncertainty, is precisely what generates the anxiety it's trying to escape. Not because thinking is bad, but because what you're applying it to is not a thinking problem. It's a feeling problem, and feeling problems cannot be thought away. They can only be circled indefinitely while the feelings underneath stay exactly where they are. This is why overthinking gets worse the more seriously you engage with it. You're not making progress, you're deepening the groove. When you understand that overthinking is a form of avoidance, certain things that seemed random start to make a different kind of sense. The first pattern is the loop that never resolves. Ordinary problem solving moves forward. You think about something, you reach a fixing conclusion, you move on. The process ends. Overthinking doesn't end. You return to the same question you had last night and the night before. The repetition is the tell. When thinking circles without resolving, the actual issue is almost never what you're thinking about. It's what the thought is standing in for. The question you keep asking, should I stay or leave? What do they think of me? Why can't I just be normal? Is usually the acceptable version of a harder question. The real question tends to be something like, is it safe for me to trust what I actually feel here? Or, will I still be loved if I say what's true? Or, is there something about me that I've been afraid to look at directly? Those questions don't have easy answers. They require actual contact with the feeling, under the thinking. So the mind keeps returning to the proxy. It's safer there. The second pattern is thinking as a substitute for grief. Grief, and I mean any grief, not only the dramatic kind, but the quieter kind too. The dissolution of a friendship, a version of yourself you had to give up, a dream you haven't quite admitted letting go. Grief that doesn't get expressed goes somewhere. Often where it goes is into analysis. You find yourself obsessively trying to understand what happened, why it happened, what you could have done differently. This feels like processing. It feels like you're working through something. But analysis and grief are not the same thing. Analysis keeps the loss at arm's length. You can examine it, categorize it, explain it, without ever landing in the felt experience of it. The grief stays unexpressed. The thinking continues. This is why some people can narrate their most painful experiences with extraordinary precision and complete detachment. Every nuance accounted for, every cause and effect explained, and still feel stuck. They've thought about it. They haven't grieved it. The third pattern is the worst hour, night. Overthinking is worst at night. This isn't coincidence. During the day, the mind stays occupied. Work, movement, conversation, the 100 small decisions of a morning, the defenses hold because there's enough stimulus to maintain them. At night, when the stimulation falls away, the psyche starts moving. The feelings that were held at the edge of awareness all day begin to press inward. The unconscious, which has no schedule, does what it always does. It pushes the suppressed material toward the surface. The mind, trained to keep this material at bay, intercepts. It finds something to think about, something from today, something from years ago, something hypothetical and constructed on the spot. Scenarios, worries, replays, projections, anything to remain in the realm of thought rather than land in whatever the dark is trying to deliver. This is why telling yourself to stop thinking at night rarely works. You're not addressing the actual source. You're trying to silence a messenger while the message keeps arriving. there's a moment in this that changes things, and it's not the one you're expecting. Your overthinking is not a problem to be solved, it's information. The psyche pointing in the only way it knows how, given what it learned early, towards something that needs your attention. The direction it's pointing isn't toward the thoughts themselves, it's toward what the thoughts are protecting. Watts wrote that the attempt to control inner experience is itself the disturbance. When you fight the thoughts, you add conflict on top of conflict. There are thoughts, and then there's resistance to thoughts, and the resistance generates its own noise. You are at war with yourself, and it is tiring work that changes nothing. The alternative he described gets misread as passivity. People hear it and think he's suggesting surrender. He wasn't. He was describing something more precise, stopping the war long enough to see what's actually there, allowing what is present to be present without immediately converting it into a problem to analyze or a symptom to eliminate. Jung's work gives this a different language. The thinking function that's been overused is trying in its limited way to do the work of the feeling function. But thinking cannot process grief. Thinking cannot discharge anger. Thinking cannot move through shame. These have their own language, one that lives in the body, in sensation, in the tightness in your chest you've been breathing around for years without naming. This is not about forcing yourself to feel. It's almost the opposite. It's about creating enough stillness that what's already there, what has been there, pressing against the walls, can finally take up the space it's been asking for. In practice, this looks less dramatic than it sounds. It might be sitting with something uncomfortable without immediately reaching for your phone or a thought, noticing that something's present and not converting it right away. Asking yourself, not as an intellectual exercise, but as a genuine question, what am I actually feeling underneath this? The answer won't come immediately. The habit of deflecting is old and fast, but the question itself begins to do something. Jung believed, and this is one of the most important things he said about the unconscious, that what we refuse to acknowledge doesn't disappear, it grows. It develops what he called an autonomy, the capacity to act without our awareness, to drive behavior from a place we can't see. The overthinking, the sleeplessness, the inexplicable restlessness, the sadness that arrives without a clear source. These are often the suppressed feeling finding its way upward in the only forms it can manage. The way out isn't to think better, it's to feel more honestly. None of this is easy to hear. Part of what makes it hard isn't the idea, it's what the idea implies. If your overthinking is covering something, there's something to uncover. And uncovering things is uncomfortable. You might find grief you haven't let yourself grieve, anger you were told you had no right to, longing so old and so deep that acknowledging it feels like it might break something open. Maybe it will. Maybe that's what needs to happen. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from carrying something too long. The mind that keeps thinking and thinking and thinking. That mind is not restless by nature. It's tired. It has been doing double work for years, trying to carry what the heart was never allowed to hold. What would it mean to let the heart hold some of it? Watts wrote about what he called the wisdom of insecurity, the possibility that what you're looking for doesn't come from more clarity, more airtight analysis, more certainty about why things are the way they are. It comes from loosening the grip, not because everything is fine, but because the tighter you hold, the more the anxiety lives in your hands and the less you can feel anything else. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You don't think too much. What's more accurate, and this is worth sitting with, is that you've been carrying feelings in the only container that ever felt safe, your mind. And your mind was never meant to hold them alone. This isn't a video that ends with steps or a plan, because what's needed here isn't a procedure. It's a different kind of relationship between you and the parts of yourself that have been waiting, sometimes for a long time, to be acknowledged rather than explained. So there is only one question worth carrying out of here. Not, how do I stop overthinking? But, what am I thinking about this for? What's underneath the loop? What is the feeling the thought is standing in for? What, if you stopped analyzing it for just a moment, if the thinking went quiet for long enough, would actually be there? You don't have to answer it tonight, but you might want to stop running from the question